Hello, and welcome back to the Gazette Podcast. I'm your host, Lizzie Bianco, and I have the pleasure of presenting you yet another fascinating episode, this time featuring Richmond County Criminal Court's supervising judge, the Honorable Biju Koshy, and RCDA's very own Chief of the Alternatives to Incarceration Unit, Assistant District Attorney Jason Cohen. What Judge Koshy and ADA Cohen have to say about treatment courts and their professional lives is far more interesting than any preamble I could offer you. So with that, allow me to introduce this month's exceptional guests.
My name is Biju Koshy. I'm the supervising judge of the Richmond County Criminal Court. And for purposes of today's discussion, I'm also the presiding judge of the Richmond County ATI courts and problem-solving courts. While I will be talking about an overview of what we do in the courts, I'm going to share some opinions as well. And any opinions I do share today, those are personal opinions and do not reflect that of the New York State Unified Court System.
My name is Jason Cohen. I'm an assistant district attorney for the Richmond County District Attorney's Office, where I'm the chief of the Alternatives to Incarceration Bureau.
Some people, they may realize the connections between both of you and your professional relationships. But Judge Koshy, you're actually our first non-RCDA staff member who we are featuring as our guest for the month. So would you mind sharing how you know each other and how your work overlaps as a judge and as an ADI in the office?
Sure. First, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. And while I might be the first non-RCDA guest, I am a proud alumni of the Richmond County DA's office, where I previously served as a deputy bureau chief in the Criminal Court Bureau. I was at the Richmond County DA's office from 2010 through 2015 before I left. And actually, we've come a long way because at the time, I remember an intern by the name of Jason Cohen who came to our Criminal Court Bureau back when we were located in the old courthouse at 67 Targee Street. And so our relationship stems all the way back to that experience. And through that, I've had different bylines in my career, working for the courts and then working as a defense attorney and ultimately becoming appointed as a judge, where I work with ADA Cohen basically every single week.
Yeah. As he said, going back to when I was an intern who started off at law school and was interested in becoming an ADA one day, to a young criminal court assistant, standing in Judge Rodriguez's part with now Judge Koshy as his court attorney, or even working really together, because in the end, I look at this as a collaborative thing on some really difficult mental health cases, whether it was in Supreme or criminal, with defense counsel, Biju Koshy, and now getting to work with him closely in our mental health courts. So yeah, we go back quite a bit.
Do you mind speaking a bit about what treatment courts are and how many of them we have in Richmond County?
We have more than you would expect. The treatment courts for the New York State court system come under what's called the Office of Justice Initiatives, and the umbrella that goes over our treatment courts are called problem-solving courts. There are many different problem-solving courts that we have, and as ADA Cohen just referenced, we do have a difference between the Supreme Court of Richmond County and the criminal court. But here in the criminal court, we have what you would expect as treatment courts, which are our drug treatment and mental health parts. And I'll talk a little bit about what they are, where they've come from, and what they are today. We also have courts that you might not normally think of as a traditional treatment court, but are under the title of problem-solving courts. And that includes our DWI court, our domestic violence court, and our human trafficking courts, to name a few. But with respect to our treatment courts, we've had different iterations over the years of how those calendars worked out, from Staten Island Treatment Court to what is now called the ATI part, or the Alternatives to Incarceration Court part. It kind of flew in the face of what we had been doing, which was continually opening up new calendars and court parts to better serve some of these populations. But one of the things we noticed collaboratively between the court, the prosecutor, and defense bar is that while we did have a drug treatment court, a standalone treatment court, as well as a standalone mental health court, upwards of 90% of our population sometimes were dealing with co-occurring issues, whether it's mental health and substance abuse. And so it made sense for us to combine this into one ATI part, which has yielded greater flexibility in dealing with our clients and their issues. And also, and ADA Cohen can tell you, we have a very specific and different environment in our treatment parts. And it's a different approach and a different ambiance, if you will. And it's more conducive to helping people be more comfortable in being candid with the court and with all parties. Presently, we have our ATI parts. We also have our AP7 calendar, which I'm sure everybody in the DA's office knows is the DA's office HOPE program. And that meets every Friday, which I also preside over.
As Judge Koshy said, and I still remember when he brought that up, most of our people with substance use disorder in our community are doing that because they're self-medicating, because they don't have the help, they don't have the resources. You would see so much overlap with the individuals, whether it be in drug court or mental health court, with what the screening results were, what was happening. And really, what I like about what we've built here is that we are a collaborative space within a system that is not built for this, right? We're in the criminal justice system. It's prosecution versus defense. We're going to fight it out over every little thing. It's adversarial in how it was created. But I think that what's so nice about the treatment court, and even compared to some of the other boroughs, what we've fostered here is that when the judge puts a case into that part, when I make that offer, I think there's goodwill with the defense bar. I think there's also goodwill with the defendants because people talk and they talk to other people in the court part. I think that everybody realizes that our end goal, it's not a gotcha, right? We're not doing this to hold something over somebody's head. We really want to make sure that these individuals are getting their help, because if they go to jail for 5 days, that's great. When they get out, they're still dealing with mental health or addiction illness, and then they're right back in the same place. But if we can get them into a program for a period of time, it may not be the first time. It may not be the 10th time. I mean, we've had people who we've offered treatment to over and over and over again. And then finally they do that inpatient and something clicks and then you don't see them. And that's really the goal. Stopping that life sentence 5 days at a time, as I like to call it, but also cutting down recidivism and ultimately helping our community.
Once I took over the treatment parts here, it was very important for me to have regular stakeholder meetings. I always call us a team, and the team means not myself and the people who work for the court. I'm talking about the prosecutor, the defense bar, and our treatment partners. These quarterly stakeholder meetings really serve to foster a better environment and a more fluid way for us to have regular communication. Over the past couple of years, those meetings have changed in tenor, where the first couple meetings were maybe one agency using the opportunity to complain about a process that might not have been optimal in their eyes, to now all partners are communicating regularly. And so when we get together, sometimes it's just for our own mental health and connection and ability to talk about what's going on in our parts, celebrate our successes, and talk about what cases might have been more challenging and that we could do better with next time.
You've both teed me up very nicely for my next question, and you've sort of touched upon it already, but to formally ask it, what value do you think having alternatives to incarceration or treatment courts like this brings to the criminal justice system? And in what ways do you feel like it's transformative from traditional models?
When I first started here, treatment was not the focus. Treatment was something you did on a case that you couldn't get jail. That was always the focus of a prosecutor. And I think that there was a thought for a long time that prosecution is black and white. People have committed crimes. They need to go to jail to be punished for those crimes. And that's my job. I think that there's an understanding now that, yes, people commit crimes, and some people commit crimes for various reasons, but a lot of the people in the criminal justice system are committing those crimes because they are struggling with serious mental health issues. And a lot of people who are using substances to self-medicate for those same serious mental health issues. So you can't jail your way out of this problem. Like I said earlier, if you have someone who's committing petty crimes because they're a heroin addict, and you put them in Rikers Island for 5 days, when they get out, they're still a heroin addict. The largest provider of mental health services in the United States is Rikers Island and the LA County Jail. The majority of individuals in Rikers Island, everybody is screened when they go in, have some sort of mental health disorder. And a good amount of those people have what's considered a serious mental health, an SMI designation by Rikers Correctional Services. So yes, we can throw somebody in jail for stealing or committing a crime. If somebody commits a murder or a very serious crime or very intentional victim crime, that's a whole different thing. But I'd say that the majority of our cases that we're looking at are petty thefts or minor drug possession, things like that. Those types of crimes, if they're fueled by drugs, we can't jail our way out of that problem. And that is a drain on society, right? We're paying for these individuals to be in Rikers Island. So why not better use our resources to get the people the help that they need so that maybe they'll stop? committing these crimes.
It's so hard to even calculate the value of what these treatment courts do. If anyone is cynical about the criminal justice system, I challenge you to come and sit in our ATI part any Monday or Thursday afternoon, and you will walk away a believer. And it's because there is an entirely different approach. The value to the people who say yes, and our goal every day in that part is hoping that someone says yes to this path. Housing, jobs, reconnection with family, children, working their way out of substance abuse, addiction, and dependency, seeking mental health treatment that they've always needed. The list goes on, and you'll hear it at our graduations in the part when there's usually not a dry eye in the audience as people talk about how they've reclaimed their lives. You don't get that, as ADA Cohen said, when someone gets sentenced to 30 days jail for stealing from Macy's. Every case is different, and every defendant is different, every circumstance is different, and sometimes there are different routes that a criminal case can go. After an alleged crime is committed, the case comes in, and I recall from the DA's office, the first question we would ask the police officers, what happened? And from that, what happened, you start to figure out what should happen on this case and what does justice demand as an outcome here? What's the punishment or what's the offer, etc. And here we try to figure out, why did this happen? Why did this person get arrested? Why were they in this situation? Why are they continuing to get arrested for A, B, or C? And get to the root of that problem. Otherwise, we're just going to see them next week. And unfortunately, a lot of times we do. I even call a number of our clients by first name basis, and I'll even go downstairs to the arraignment part when they get rearrested and say, hey, Tom, what happened? Are you ready this time? Let's give it a shot. And that's a personal connection we're able to do here. But the value is incalculable. And it starts with the DA's office. If there isn't a robust attention and commitment to treatment, then this never starts in the first place. I have colleagues throughout the state, and a number of them lament that their specific county DA's office is not committed to treatment anywhere close to what I'm able to say that we have here in Richmond County. So that's where it starts, because the offer comes from the prosecutor, something that is unique here. That offer is sometimes done in arraignments because the clients may be already known to the office. There's overdose response that sometimes yields information, and what might come in through arraignments as a driving case just for not paying tickets are sometimes referred to our treatment part. And as a judge, we often wonder, why would this case go to a treatment part? It's because there is a whole intervention that's being done beforehand that the court is not privy to, but it's helping open that door to treatment for a lot of people that wouldn't do it. The other part of that equation, of course, is the defense bar. And because the prosecutor is proactive in making treatment offers, and they've shown that their approach to this is not, if you test positive once you go to jail, or if you miss a session you're going to jail, but a true commitment to repeated chances of, as long as you're showing up and showing us that you're involved, we will all work together to keep this going. The defense bar has been extremely invested in doing this and saying yes to treatment for their clients, and the courts here are very committed. The Chief Judge, Rowan Wilson, stated in a recent State of the Judiciary address that he wants every court to be a problem-solving court. So we're trying to adopt that strategy to make sure that our morning court calendars start to reflect what our treatment courts can do.
I came in right around the same time as DA McMahon, and it has been an absolute sea change over the last 10 years. And I really credit DA McMahon, who in a lot of ways was visionary in what he wanted to do in starting the HOPE program, in starting our overdose response initiative, where we not only investigate every overdose like it's a crime, which wasn't done before, but where my team is reaching out to those individuals and their families and offering services, whether or not they're involved in the criminal justice system, in fighting for us to get a veterans court, which we hadn't had, in fighting for us to get a misdemeanor mental health court, which we didn't have. We only had a felony part, and it was a very small part. And of course, in starting an ATI bureau, I talked to my colleagues in other boroughs, and for the types of cases that we're putting into Judge Koshy's part and doing short-term, maybe 90-day light touch treatment, they're just dismissing those cases or giving them an ACD and 2 days community service because they don't have the buy-in of the defense bar and they don't have the buy-in of the court. And with all the changes in bail and discovery reform, it's difficult for us often to do our jobs, to be frank. And the defense bar knows that. So they can hit us with a ton of motions and fight us tooth and nail to eventually get to the point where we're going to offer treatment. But I think that we've built such a great collaborative environment here that we're getting cases right out of the arraignment part. And we're forthwithing them and we're sending them straight into a program. I know you spoke to David and Austin in a previous episode, and they're sitting down there, giving their card Narcan training, say, hey, listen, come with me right now, and using that lived experience to make a real connection. I am so incredibly lucky to have the both of them who are so dedicated and fantastic on our team and just a joy to work with every day. And it also comes down to the court. I've practiced in front of a lot of judges in my time, and to have a judge like Judge Koshy who really has a conversation with the individual. In other parts, it's people, defense, everyone's talking about this person who is standing there. In Judge Koshy's part, sometimes I don't even speak, and neither does defense. He's having a conversation with that person, a real conversation about how are you doing? Hey, I noticed last time you said you were struggling with this. Is everything okay with that? What can we do to help that? And I'm not a clinician, but I go to a lot of conferences, the nationwide or New York State drug court conferences. And one of the things that they push is that that connection is one of the most important things. And the judge, who is an authority figure, who has a real conversation with these individuals, some of whom have no support outside of this. So to have a conversation with someone up on the bench who really cares about me, and everyone in this room really cares about me, and they care about me doing well, is such an important facet of what we're doing here, because they don't want to let him down and they don't want to let me down. There's been times where I've asked for sentence and then someone keeps doing well. And as a motivating factor, I say, hey, you know what? I asked for a year. Go out there, do well. The judge is giving you another shot. Prove me wrong. Come back next time with 100%. And they do it. And then they come over and shake my hand, which is something as a prosecutor, you don't see that in other parts. But here they come over and they shake my hand and they say, thank you for the opportunity.
This is an intriguing conversation, and we'll certainly return to it. But all of this talk about courts has me wondering what cases RCDA's prosecutors have contended with recently. I'm going to allow our communications director, James Clinton, to fill us in.
Welcome to the Courtroom Corner, Gazette listeners.
Court is now in session.
This is RCDA's Communications Director, James Clinton, with an update from our prosecutors. Earlier this month, defendant Michael Mendez was sentenced to 16 years in prison, in addition to 5 years post-release supervision, after pleading guilty to robbery in the first degree last year. A 36-year-old Staten Islander with a lengthy criminal history, Mendez can attribute his latest stint behind bars to a series of criminal acts committed on June 2, 2024. At approximately 12 p.m. that afternoon, Mendez approached his first victim, threatening to kill him and his family before forcibly stealing $47, a gold chain, and the victim's wallet. Mendez approached his second victim approximately 30 minutes later. Once again, Mendez threatened to kill the victim before robbing him of his gold chain. Thankfully, NYPD officers were able to locate, apprehend, and arrest the defendant just 1 hour later. Committing 2 violent robberies in under an hour, Mendez's violent conduct was beyond inexcusable, and we are proud to have held him fully accountable in the courtroom for his repeated criminal acts. We thank our dedicated partners in the NYPD and commend Trials Bureau Chief Antonio Asenzo and Assistant District Attorney Ann O'Connor for securing a lengthy prison sentence for this violent recidivist. As Staten Island's Chief Law Enforcement Officer, DA McMahon will continue to work to ensure that serious crime is met with serious consequences in our borough, and this sentencing is a testament to that promise. And with that, listeners, you are dismissed, and the Courtroom Corner is adjourned.
Thanks, James. Judge Koshy, as you were saying.
We, at a recent statewide conference, our statewide coordinating judge of problem-solving courts actually singled out Staten Island and mentioned when she visited here, she was impressed at how the prosecutor was having conversations with our clients and how that easygoing and relaxed approach led to better success. Most people, especially in New York City, might not appreciate, and especially Staten Islanders should know, that we have something very special here in our treatment court. ADA Cohen brought up that there was bail and discovery reform. Without making comment to it, I can just tell you data-wise, there was a drop-off in the number of cases that were being referred citywide to our treatment courts. In Staten Island, we are an outlier in that our numbers for the past couple of years have been going up. A part of that is innovative approaches when it comes to incarcerated clients. I was a defense attorney in one of my former lives, and one thing that always stuck with me was a client who was incarcerated for far too long trying to wait for a bed. Ultimately decided it was better taking a jail alternative. Once he got out, not too long after, he passed away from an overdose. And this was somebody who was saying yes to treatment. Yes, I want to do it. That stays with me, and it's something that we've collectively put an emphasis on connecting them as quickly as possible. Because if someone is coming to the court and saying, I'm being offered a program from the district attorney. Yes, I want it. Now we can't let them sit in Rikers Island for weeks or months because the data shows that the longer they stay in, the less likely they are to have success in the program. So rather than even waiting for what we call 170-70 dates or 180-80 dates, we are advancing cases within days, and our treatment providers, the court's ATI team, prosecutor, defense is all working together to figure out if there's a way to connect this person even faster to treatment. And it's something that I think is frankly unique in this county versus, I'll put us against the entire state on that.
You know, it used to frustrate me as a young ADA because you'd have an individual that wanted to do treatment, and even just getting them screened could take months. One of the things that I've done with my team is the minute we say, okay, this should be a treatment program, sometimes even before the individual's been arraigned, we are coordinating with the court and defense and the providers and getting things done in weeks and getting those bed dates done quicker. I just had a meeting with the other ATI chiefs and also the mayor's office. And one of the things they talked about is this new population review program that they're doing, because it's taking so long in other boroughs to get people screened and find out appropriate individuals. And we haven't been hearing about it here. I asked the person who was speaking on behalf of that program, and I said, why aren't you guys on Staten Island? I'm not hearing about population review here. And he said, well, it's because you guys do it quicker. In other boroughs, it's taking months and months to get people screened. Here, especially on a misdemeanor, weeks, if that. Sometimes by the end of the week, we have somebody screened, placed in a program, ready to go. And I think that just goes to everyone's dedication and everybody understanding the urgency of those cases, because the best time to intervene is right when that person has been picked up. The longer they sit in Rikers Island, the more they start thinking, well, I could just take my jail time. The one thing that I say to my colleagues every day in the work that I do is, what are we accomplishing when you make that offer? Are you making real change? Are you actually helping somebody? So, okay, if I make a 3 days community service or 10 days jail, I can do that. As the prosecutor, I make that decision because I have an immense amount of power over what happens to individuals in our community. But ultimately, what am I accomplishing by doing that? Sure, this person has a conviction. They're going to go to jail for a couple of days. So to afford somebody an opportunity, if they're willing to do it, if that opportunity is going to be squandered because they have to now wait 6 months and they would have gotten 6 months anyway, and they say, screw it, it's not worth it to wait. I think everybody understands that. And I think that's one of the more important things to focus on as we're doing this kind of work.
Listening to both of you speak about your experiences, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that it really is remarkable. And there's 4 takeaways that I have sitting across from you now. And the first is that this really is a collaborative effort. It wouldn't be possible if any player on the team was not pulling their weight, so to speak. And the second is that Staten Island is unique in our approach to this. That's not to say that we're the only ones that are doing this, but we're the only ones that seem to be doing it this way. And that is something I think to be very proud of and to continue, of course, building upon that model. The third thing that I would say is people that are involved in the criminal justice system, whether that be as victims, as defendants on whatever side, that's typically not something that is viewed as a positive experience for them. And although the individuals that we have coming through treatment court are not necessarily in a positive moment in their life, it seems that what you all have been able to do in establishing and building up the treatment courts and programs and offering people these alternatives, you've turned that experience into something that, should they choose to seize those opportunities, can really become a positive. And I think that that is, going back to my word before, really remarkable and something very, very touching to hear about, and I'm sure even more touching to be a participant in. The fourth thing is mental health. Now, we're in May, and for those who may not be aware, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Is there anything in particular that you would like to note in your experiences working in treatment courts about the importance of mental health?
First, for the defendants or the clients that are coming into the part, it has been and continues to be a challenge to get the right outcomes for individuals, especially individuals solely with mental health challenges, because the number of residential programs or programs that cater specifically to these needs are still lacking. However, we are doing the best that we have with what we have, and our treatment providers have often filled in the gaps by getting creative and putting their professionals to the task of doing it, and having a more welcoming atmosphere, understanding that the world looks different through their eyes is very important. What might look like erratic or disruptive behavior in a courtroom might not be what you think it is, because the world looks different for somebody experiencing either symptoms of mental health illness or anxiety when they come into these buildings. And so we try to be more accommodating and understanding of people with those needs. Secondly, apart from the cases themselves and the clients, it's important for everybody doing this work to make sure we are all paying attention to our mental health needs and wellness. As rewarding as it is, it can be very taxing on each person. Oftentimes, I worry about some of these clients when I go home, and I'm sure there are prosecutors who worry about their victims, and there are cases where it's family members bringing a case against someone just so that they can get them help, and the families may be calling the prosecutor on a daily basis to try to figure out how that's going to get resolved. Defense attorneys undoubtedly dealing with this on a daily basis have trauma on the side of that. And of course, our treatment providers are on the front lines catering to our population. So it's important that we all take breaks, that we all make sure that we talk to somebody if we need to. We can get overburdened by the work that we have. So it's important for us to invest that time in ourselves so that we are at our best when we walk through the doors.
That's something I definitely agree with. The former chief assistant here, Paul Capofari, who I had the pleasure of working for and working with when I was a mental health attorney for the state before I came to the DA's office, when I took over the mental health court, one of the things that he said to me is, you go to bed every night and you hope the atomic bomb doesn't go off. Because as the individual who's making that determination, when I take that guy who maybe he just stole a bag of chips or he didn't pay for the bus, but when I say, no, I'm going to give him diversion, I'm going to give him treatment instead of the traditional prosecutorial route, ultimately, if they go out and commit some terrible crime, that's on me. There are those times where I'm up at night wondering, did I make the right decision here? And there are times where I'm proven wrong, and there are times where I go to bat for a client and I'm proven right in the end. But I do think uh, these are very high stress jobs, and I think that it's difficult to focus on yourself sometimes and pack that away when you get home. I will also briefly take this time to push that I also do work with NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and on Wednesday night, June 10th at Richmond University Medical Center, myself, Judge Koshy, and a panel of other professionals, including Samantha Smalls, who is the legal aid mental health attorney, my counterpart in a lot of ways, and some of our defense bar will be speaking about mental health courts and answering families and individuals in the community who might have any questions about this process for their loved ones who may need it. I thank you for letting me talk about that.
Absolutely. Adia Cohen, Judge Koshy, I thank you both tremendously for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to sit down with me and have this conversation. Before we sign off, I turn the microphone over to both of you.
I just want to first say thank you. This is great to have this opportunity to talk about our treatment courts and mental health. Even though I'm the supervising judge of the county, my favorite part of the job is as the treatment court judge, because this is the most rewarding part of my day every day. I want everybody to know that we do have something special here, especially younger ADAs who are starting to learn the ropes. It's important to know that justice demands us to be looking at all the ways that we can do better and serve the community better. I'm thankful that I have such amazing partners such as DA Mike McMahon, our Legal Aid Society, Criminal Defense Bar, and all our treatment providers. And most importantly, thank you for the platform today.
One of the things I like to say is that when I became an assistant district attorney and you take that oath of office to serve the people of Richmond County, it's important not to forget that these individuals coming through the court system, they're our constituents as well. And at a certain point, we also have a duty to them. For those individuals who are struggling, and that's why they're committing these crimes, they're unfortunately aren't the resources here that they have in all the other boroughs. We are the forgotten borough, but we're lucky because we have such a tight-knit community here, whether it's Judge Mundy in Supreme Court or the defense bar or the different agencies or ultimately Judge Koshy, who has really had a great focus on this and has really worked to collaborate with everybody and bring everybody to the table and have everybody be a part of this, just like DA McMahon has done from day one, realizing that this is a community-based issue and that we all need to come together. North Shore to South Shore, everybody in between. We need to help our friends and neighbors. We need to help our community. And that's what this ultimately is about. I'm blessed to have a really fantastic team. Every member of my ATI team, ADA Baver, our peers, our clinical director, the rest of the staff, who are all in on the mission. In the end, that's what it's about, is helping our community.
Thank you both again for taking the time out of your days today. We're happy to have you as guests.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've already acknowledged that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we were fortunate enough to speak to Judge Biju Koshy and Assistant District Attorney Jason Cohen about the work that they do with our treatment courts here in Richmond County, as well as the importance of mental health within the criminal justice system. Something that our office does every year is our Multicultural Food Festival. And the tie-in here is that not only is it important and essential to nourish your mind and take care of yourself in that capacity, but it's important to nourish your body as well. And when those things come into balance, there really is nothing better than that. So now I have the pleasure of being joined by District Attorney McMahon, who's going to tell us a little bit about that food festival.
Thank you, Lizzie. As you know, we have our upcoming Multicultural Food Festival in the On You Mark facility on Clinton Avenue in New Brighton on June 7th. So we want everybody to come. And you're right that there's some positives about it generally, but we can't forget that the food festival is a program that's put on by our hate crimes task force. Can't forget really that, the prime directive of our office is to prosecute and prevent crimes. In particular, hate crimes is the focus of the hate crimes task force. A hate crime is one that is committed against someone because of their identity, whether it's because of the color of their skin, who they love, their gender, they have a disability, their age. And we work very hard here on Staten Island. If someone commits a hate crime, they are going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And we have a hate crimes unit within our trials bureau, and they have a longstanding policy that if you're charged with a hate crime as a felony, you cannot get a plea to a misdemeanor. You will be charged with, and you must take a plea to the felony. That's how seriously we take it. And we work very closely with the hate crimes team from the police department. The minute one report comes in about it, we get into action, we investigate it, and we make arrests, and we'll prosecute them. And that's first and foremost, but we can't be successful in fighting crime unless we prevent it. And that's where the hate crimes task force comes in, working on education and outreach and a whole host of initiatives like we just did last month, the Anne Frank production at the St. George Theater, together with the Holocaust Center at Wagner College and those incredible students who put on that show. So there's a lot going on. This is part of it. So yes, it's a wonderful day to come and taste the different foods of the different cultural groups who call Staten Island home and celebrate the things that bind us, always represented and manifested beautifully in the foods that we have. But again, the main mission is to talk about hate crimes and to prevent them and foster a feeling of harmony as opposed to hatred. So we're looking forward to tasting all the different dishes. And I want to thank you for your work on the Hate Crimes Task Force and the team that you work with in putting together another fantastic food festival.
Well, thank you very much. And it is something that I consider a true blessing to be able to have a hand in some part of the work that we do as far as preventing and responding to hate-based and bias incidents here on Staten Island. It's really important work. It's impactful work. And I'm happy to be one player on the team to assist in some way, shape, or form. And for all of our listeners, if you are available on June 7th from 1 to 4 p.m., we will be hosting, as DA McMahon said, at the On Your Mark campus at 129 Clinton Avenue. We invite you to join us that day. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to reach out to me. We hope to see you there.
And don't forget, it's open to the public and it's free of charge.
That it is. According to a report released by the New York City Department of Mental Health and Hygiene in 2024, among the 6 million adults in New York City, nearly 1 in 4 experience a mental health disorder in a given year. More than 2/3 of adults with a diagnosis received treatment in the past year, but 34% report unmet mental health needs, whether that be not receiving as much treatment as they would have wanted, not receiving it as soon as they wish they had, or not easily accessing it at any point when they wanted it. These statistics encapsulate more than just numbers. They are reflective of real people, That's why it's perhaps more critical than ever to emphasize the importance of mental health in all spaces, as well as access to treatment services that hopefully have the power to change lives for the better. I want to thank DA McMahon, Assistant District Attorney Cohen, and Judge Koshy once again for sharing their time and wisdom with us. I hope you enjoyed this month's episode and look forward to joining you next month. Until then, stay safe and be well.